Imagine a world where one man creates a company, and overnight, that company becomes a new legal person, separate from him, independent, almost like a child with its own identity. Sounds strange, right? But this one case changed the very foundation of modern company law. Welcome to Law Ignite, and today we're diving deep into the legendary case of Salomon versus Salomon, 1897. Before we proceed further, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Law Ignite for more interesting legal tales that influence the way we live today. So let's get started. It is the year 1892 in England. There was a hard-working leather boot manufacturer by the name of Aron Salomon who was conducting business as a sole trader. Business was prosperous, but Salomon desired to turn it into a company, a distinct legal entity. Therefore, he registered Salomon Co Limited, pursuant to the Companies Act. Now here's where things get really interesting. Under law, a minimum of 7 members had to come together to incorporate a company. So Salomon smartly made his wife and kids shareholders. But in fact, he controlled nearly everything. He owned 20,001 shares out of 20,007. That's right, he was virtually the company itself. He sold his previous sole proprietorship business to this new firm for $39,000, a big sum in those days. But rather than getting the entire amount in cash, he received part of it in the form of debentures, secured loans. This made Salomon a secured creditor of his own firm. Clever, isn't it? But then, fate had a twist. The company went bankrupt. The business folded. Creditors, those who had provided goods and money, were fuming. They claimed that the company was simply Salomon with another name. They demanded that Salomon be held personally responsible for all debts. After all, wasn't the company his puppet anyway? The lower courts concurred with the creditors. They declared, "This is a sham, Mr. Salomon is using the company as a mask to cheat creditors." It seemed Salomon's ingenious framework had backfired. But here's the twist. The case went to the House of Lords, the Supreme Court in Britain. And in 1897, the Lords handed down a ruling that shook the corporate world for all time. They decreed, Salomon Co. Limited is a distinct legal personality. Even though Salomon held nearly all the shares, the company was not him. It existed independently. The company's debts were not Mr. Salomon's debts. Salomon, as a secured creditor, stood ahead of unsecured creditors. This was a milestone ruling. From this point on, the doctrine of separate legal personality became the foundation of company law. A company was permitted to hold property, sue, and be sued in its own name, just as a living individual. But wait, isn't that unjust to the poor creditors? That's the emotional argument even today. Some argue this judgment shielded entrepreneurs and fostered business expansion. Others claim it enabled individuals to hide behind the corporate veil and avoid responsibility. And here's the other side of the human equation. Salomon wasn't a cheat. He had merely employed the law in his favor. But to the tiny creditors who lost their money, it was nothing short of betrayal. This case is quoted even today in courts across the globe. Each time we refer to limited liability or corporate personality, we return to Salomon versus Salomon Co Limited. So, the next time you glance at the behemoth corporation taking cover behind the umbrella of limited liability, recall, it all began with a man, his boots, and a company that transcended him. If you enjoyed reading this story, do not forget to hit that like button